Hi, everybody. Just giving another minute to allow people to come in. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm Lorena Stahl. I'm the project director at Counter, and really grateful to all of you for sparing the time to come and join us this afternoon. You won't be hearing very much from me, but you will be hearing from some experts. And first up, we have Joe Lambert and Laura Wong, and they both work for JUSP, the Journal's Usage Statistics Portal. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that on this call, so I don't need to say too much about it. But I will just say that Joe Lambert, in addition to her role at JUSP, is a member of the Counter Board of Directors. So she's, I think, here in both those capacities today. And then when we've heard from Laura and Joe, I'm going to hand over to Beda Kosata, who is going to take us through our new Counter Registry. Beda works for Big Dig Data, who have done a fantastic job in building this registry for us. So Joe and Laura, if you're ready, I'm going to hand over to you.
Excellent, thank you, Lorraine. So I'm going to start off. Would you mind just moving on to the first slide? Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so this is the agenda for the session today. I'm going to start by talking about the importance and the value and the benefits of the Counter Registry to both publishers and libraries. And then Laura is going to really talk a little bit about how the Counter Registry is used by initiatives and projects like JUSP and others. And then we'll have a demo, a Q&A, and next steps. So Lorraine, would you mind moving on? Perfect, thank you. So the Counter Registry is a really important tool that aims to provide a single point of access to information about compliant publishers, platforms and hosts. So it details information about the different counter reports that are supplied by each of the providers, contact information, and Sushi implementation details. And then with the recent development of the Counter Registry, there's now an area that you can use to communicate information about data issues, restatements, or any other information that you want to note and communicate to people. So if we can just move on to the next slide, there's a little bit of background information. So would you mind just muting if you're not speaking at the moment? Thank you. Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit about the value of the Counter Registry. So it really offers a number of different benefits to you and to your customers. I think really if you're investing in achieving compliance with the code of practice, then the registry really enables you to demonstrate the commitment that you've indicated towards providing standardized data. Or would you mind moving back a slide, please, Ray? Do you mind moving back to the previous? Brilliant, thank you. So we know that libraries really value access to counter statistics, and the registry really helps to communicate that and indicate your commitment in doing this. And clearly, once you've put a lot of work into developing developing counter compliance and achieving compliance, then you'll really want to shout about that to your customers. So the registry, offers this opportunity to indicate who's compliant and really serves as an indication of quality. So making sure that you're represented on that registry really sends a message that you've achieved certain quality standards. You'll want to make sure that your customers know which reports they can access and how they can access those. So recording Sushi information in a single place really helps to reduce support requests for information. And so this is going to be useful really for your customers who are wanting to gather this information and those who are external to the organization. but it's a really useful resource actually on an internal basis. So particularly if maybe you're based within a larger organization where you might have staff that lack the awareness or the knowledge of countering sushi, and it's a useful place to be able to point them to. As I sort of indicated earlier, then the registry also provides this important role in enabling you to communicate data issues or restatements. So you might currently use things like mailing lists or other tools to do this, but sometimes the messages can get missed. We all know the problems around email. So having a single place such as the registry to communicate those issues, and more importantly, when you've got to the point of resolving those issues, I think is a really useful thing, and it obviously makes things much more efficient. Something that Lorraine flagged actually when we were talking earlier prior to this webinar is that apparently an increasing number of you are starting to provide item reports that might be available but not yet audited. So the notifications area is a really good place to highlight any work that you're doing in that area. For your library customers who are maybe wanting to harvest statistics into local systems, so things like their library management system or a stats application, then the registry provides real efficiencies. It's essentially avoiding them having to visit multiple websites and places to gather this information. And so they can be certain this information is being managed and updated by you as necessary, and that they're looking at this, comprehensive and up-to-date record. I think understanding the point at which data issues were identified and subsequently resolved is really valuable for your customers. And so this can help them with things like retrospective analysis or reporting. It enables you really to be transparent and record any issues. So you'll know that if, for instance, your customers pulled reports at a particular point in time and maybe saved them locally, and then they need to rerun a usage report, if they're noting discrepancies, then that log of information will help them to identify what happened and when, so they understand what's occurred. And again, I think that this is really helping to cut down on support requests to potentially your help desk and your teams. And then we have intermediary products and services like JUST and the CC Plus initiative, and they really depend on this registry for a single point of information. And Laura's going to speak, cover this in a little bit more detail about how the registry is used by JUST. But before that, I just want to cover a couple of quotes. So if you can move on, please, Lorraine, to the next slide. So representing a library consortium and also the CC Plus initiative, Jill Morris from Palsy provided this particular quote. So here she talks about the registry as an advocacy tool for counter compliance and for offering an accurate record of sushi details. And Jill outlines how libraries and consortia use the registry to assess the extent to which publishers and content providers are meeting library needs. And she also highlights its value in really helping to exploit access to the data and the stats that you've obviously spent a lot of time and resources in creating. Do you mind moving on to the next slide, please? Great. Okay, so this quote from Irene Barbers representing a library perspective really reiterates these efficiencies offered by the registry, both from a library and a supplier perspective. And Irene highlights the importance of this single point of access to information about reports and sushi access details. So using the registry to prepare and support sushi requests rather than having to interact with multiple websites, and again reducing the support requests to your help desk. And then the final quote, please, Lorraine. Thank you. So finally, this is a quote from Peter Simon from Newsbank, and it outlines the value of having admin access to manage their registry entry and keeping this information up to date. So they have that information available and it's easy to access that. So I'm going to hand over to Laura now to talk about the specific instances where JUST is using this to manage information. So I'll hand over to you, Laura.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Lorraine. Okay, so before I go and talk about how we use the registry, I just wanted to quickly go over a bit of background to give you a bit of context, and particularly those who may not be familiar with the service. So it stands for the Journal Use Statistics Portal, but we actually cover a lot more than that. We cover books, databases and platforms, and we're also going to be looking at including item reports in future, and I'll come back to that a bit later. So basically what we do is we collect counter reports on behalf of over 300 institutions on a regular monthly basis from around 100 different platforms. So we collect a lot of counter reports. So we're very used to working with them. We only collect the reports via Sushi because we're working at that kind of scale. Sushi is incredibly important for us. Without it, just wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be able to be manually harvesting reports and loading them. We really rely on that automated process, and we rely on it running smoothly and knowing when there are issues and getting those resolved. Another thing to note is we only collect master reports. So this enables us to collect the full set of data on behalf of an institution. And then we provide access to that data through a range of reports and visualizations through our interface. And the key thing about Just is that it saves libraries the time and effort of having to go to multiple websites to collect that data, to log in, to hunt around, to download the reports and aggregate it together, because we do that for them. And the same sort of applies to the registry. One of the key benefits of it is that time saving and effort. It means we don't have to go to multiple different publisher websites to find this information. We just have a single source that we can go to. Okay, so now I'm just going to run through some of the main use cases of how we use the registry in Just, or how we hope to use it more in future. But this will equally apply to any institution or large group of institutions that may be wanting to harvest data at scale. Okay, next slide, please. So the first situation for us where we use the registry is when a library asks us to add a publisher or a supplier to Just. So the very first thing we want to know about this publisher is, are they counter compliant? Are they providing counter compliant reports? And if so, which ones? And having access to the registry means that we can quickly and easily look up this information without having to go hunting around publishers' websites. And in some cases, this information isn't actually available publicly. Sometimes it would be behind a login. So for example, information about counter compliance or the reports available are available to customers only. But as we're not a customer, we can't see that. So having that information easily available is invaluable. And this really helps to inform our conversation, the approach we have with the publisher. If we know they're counter compliant, what reports they're offering, it can open up the conversation. We can give them guidance on what's required to get them to participate. If they're not counter compliant, then that changes the conversation, and we would encourage them to become so. Okay, next slide, please. The next situation where we refer to the registry is when a publisher actually joins Just. So just as we're beginning to collect the data. Now, often the first point of contact we have with a publisher is with a sales representative, and they're generally not that familiar with Sushi or data collection or usage data. So it can really help for us to have somewhere to go where we can find out who the usage data host is that publisher is working with. So we can instantly get an idea of what's going to be involved, because we're used to working across multiple platforms. Some of the key data stats providers we're regularly working with already. Similarly, it's useful to know how to go about getting credentials. So credentials for individual institutions obviously need to remain secure, but the process for actually how do you get to those credentials is really useful to know. And together this just overall just streamlines the process, as we can provide guidance to the publisher about what's required and make recommendations based on what we know have been optimal processes in the past. So in the case of Just, we've try to work with the publisher wherever possible to aggregate credentials together to reduce the burden on the institution. But there are some cases where we would want to go directly to the institution to ask them to send us credentials. And of course, other consortia or other organisations might take a different approach. So in this case, it's really helpful, as I say, for having somewhere we can point institutions to. So this is where you go to get your sushi credentials, because often they aren't familiar with working with sushi either, and they have to sort of navigate around various admin sites to find that information. So as I say, just having those instructions on the page are really useful. Okay, next slide, please. So another case where we will make use of the registry, we have done it with the previous registry, is when we are looking to expand the coverage of the reports that we offer. So this could be where we're just looking for gaps. So often we have a publisher signed up many years ago. They may change the reports that they offer. They may add new platforms, and just being able to do that sort of systematic check across the board of what data we hold and what data is on offer, and just identify where there's any mismatch can really help us fill in gaps and ensure that our users have the fullest set of data possible. Another situation where we would use it is to say we're looking to add additional reports. So we are going to be looking into including the master report, and it's good to hear that, that more publishers and suppliers are going to be providing this going forward. So we're looking to include the item master report, and it would be a really big task for us to go to every single supplier and publisher and find out whether they're offering this report. So having a central place where we can go to and get that information, as I say, is really valuable, and it allows us to assess the availability of the reports, the scale of work that's involved for us, the value of adding additional reports in, planning and the timescale. So it really helps with our planning and management. Okay, next slide, please. There's two more. Okay, so the next example where we would want to refer to, we all use the registry, in fact, is around harvesting issues. So generally speaking, we collect data on a monthly basis and it all works very smoothly and there are no issues. But every now and again, things do crop up. So it could be that there's been a change at the publisher side, change of platform, change of Sushi setup, and we haven't been notified about, or it could just be a temporary problem. And in this case, it's just useful for us to have somewhere to go to where we can find out whether we need to take any action or whether it's just a case of wait again and try again later. If we need to take action, then having a publisher contact, knowing who to contact is really helpful here, because again, sometimes we may have set up the sushi harvesting many years ago with a particular contact. They've now moved on. We now need to get in contact with someone at the publisher, and we're not sure who the best person to speak to is. So all of this really helps us resolve issues quickly and reduces gaps in the data. So we're not having large gaps of data for our end users. And as Joe mentioned earlier, just having that single point of reference where we can check for updates on issues and also be able to point our users to is handy, so that we can point everyone to the same information. We don't have different information all over the place. Okay, my final slide, please, Lorraine. Okay, thank you. So another situation that sometimes occurs is that there are corrections or changes or restatements to the stats. Sometimes we're informed about this directly through our publisher contacts. More often, we just find out accidentally when someone queries a discrepancy, and this could be months after the change has taken place. So what we'd like to do is find out what the issue was, so we can respond and inform our users of why that change has happened, how long it's been affected, and whether it's been resolved. Because once we know what the issue's been resolved and how long the affected period was, we can then go back and reharvest that data. And so having access to timely information really ensures that we ensure that libraries have up-to-date stats. And what we're holding is the most up-to-date for them. And again, just having that central point of reference is really handy for keeping users informed about progress as things develop. Okay, that's everything I wanted to cover. So I'll finish there and hand it over to Beda.
Okay, hello everybody. Now I will be showing in the real world what the registry looks like and how you can use it to edit your information and update it so that the librarians and other users really see the most up-to-date information. So I will share my screen. I have prepared like 2 very short slides just about terminology. It was already used here, but I would like to make it clear. So in the registry, we use like 2 terms. One is platform and one is usage data host. And the difference between them is that the platform is where the actual users or readers go to read data, where they download their articles and ebooks, and where they browse the databases. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the place where the data about their usage is stored. So some of the platforms, some of you do this in-house, but some of you outsource it to someone else, to someone who we call the usage data host. And this is a service which is storing these user usage data and then providing the Sushi interface to the outside world. And because there are different setups, some of you have it in-house, some of you outsource it. We split these 2 roles in the registry, and we will see later on what each of these users is able to do and not to do. So one of the important things here is that a platform, as I said, may host the data itself, but may use some external data host, but also a platform may use different data hosts for different versions of Counter. This is something that we have seen often with the introduction of Counter 5, that platforms that have had their Counter 4 data like in-house, then outsource the Counter 5 to some external data host, but the registry is of course capable of capturing also other possibilities. And before I show you the registry itself, I will just show the next slide, and this is just to make sure to cover upfront what is and isn't possible when it comes to like user roles or access levels. So if you are a platform manager, so you are assigned a platform that you manage, you can basically change all the data about the platform. You can also change the Sushi details, and you can also add new notifications about possible issues or data updates. On the other hand, if you are a usage data host, so you are hosting data for some of the platforms, you can only edit the data for the usage data hosts that are there, which is very limited. But you are not allowed by default to edit anything related to the platforms you are hosting. This is simply because there are different setups, and we do not want to allow someone to edit the data, even though, let's say, the platform manager would not be happy with that. So this is how it is done. But of course, it is possible to be assigned two different roles. So you, as a usage data host manager, maybe also assigned the role of platform manager of all or only some of the platforms that are hosted on your server. So in this way, we can make it really like flexible depending on the setup that you are using. And one more small comment is that most of the changes that you will be doing in the registry are not like immediately shown at the registry itself, but they have to be approved by the Counter staff. So even though you edit something, please don't be worried when it doesn't show up immediately in the registry. It has to be checked and approved by the Counter staff. The only exception is the contact information which you provide, like your emails and so on, because we simply expect you to know what you are doing and to know it better than the Counter staff that would be checking. So this were the 2 slides, and now I will switch to the actual registry. at first I will show you the let's say the public interface of the registry. The registry itself is very simple. It's just a few pages, and it was made so that it's really very straightforward for the users to use it. So if you come to the registry, this is the first page you see, and this is just a list of all the platforms that are listed in the registry. You can see their names, some abbreviations when they are used. You can see who is the content provider. You can see the host type, which is something that is specified by the counter code of practice 5. And you can also see a link to the website and information which sushi is active, and also which reports are active for that platform. It is possible to search here. So if I was looking for Big Reader, I would be able to find it very quickly, and then I can go to the detail of that particular platform. Here you can see the information, some basic information about the platform itself, with some like contact information here. This contact information is really related to the platform itself, and it might differ from the contacts that are then given to specific country releases. So if you have different people managing, let's say, counter 5 and counter 4 releases and so on, the contact information may be different. So this is the basic information. Here you can see like information about the current releases, which right now is counter 5. So you see the counter 5 information. You see when was the last audit. You see all the supported reports, and you see a contact that is specific to this counter 5 release, which in this case is the same as for the platform itself. And then you see some sushi information. I'm sorry. This is something that is like really telling you details about the sushi service, like the sushi server URL, and some other specific information, like if the requester ID is required, if the API key is required, and even some information when you can obtain it, or if it's like what are the maybe something about the format of the ID and so on. And then here, this is why I chose the Greuter, is that they already provided some user notifications, which is another very important part of the registry. And this is where you can let your users know that there has been something with, let's say, something wrong with it, or some issue, and what is the current status. So here we can see like two different messages. One of them is was in October, and this was like marked as a generic message, and it says that there has been some trouble with recording PDF downloads for this time period, and that it will be resolved like in the future. And then there is another notification which is related to it, and this says that this has a type of data reharvest, which means that the action to take when you receive this notification should be to reharvest the data for the effective period. And it says, okay, we have like resolved the issue with the PDF downloads, and you can now download the new data and the new fixed data. So this is really very important, especially because the new registry has an API. In fact, this whole new website is using this API in the background to receive the data, and this API can be then used by statistics software and so on to automatically reharvest the data based on these notifications, without the user needing to do it manually. You can here also see that we have some inactive releases here. This is the counter 4. You can again see which reports are supported by counter 4 for this platform, but there is no sushi service defined for this counter version. So we don't see any specific information here. So this is the most important part of the registry. Then there is the list of all the notifications which are like you taken across platform. So you can see, you can check it regularly for news here if some of the platforms that you use has released some notifications. And there is the list of the usage data hosts, which simply shows all the data hosts and how many platforms they host, and then you can, in the detail, you see details about the usage data host and also which platforms are hosted there, and some information about the audits. So here you can see that there is a finished and already like accepted by counter audit, and now there is an ongoing audit, this second one. So this is what the general public sees, and then if you use this icon here, sorry, you can get to the backstage. I will be showing not the backstage of the actual registry, but a local copy of it, because if we make some changes, I would like to not to like break anything on the public website. So the changes I will be making are only locally on my machine. So I am here logged in as a platform administrator, but also as a usage data host administrator. So I have two roles. One of them is that I can manage platforms, and here I can see that I can manage 6 platforms. If I go here, I can see which platforms these are. This is just this. I have assigned these just randomly to my account, simply so that for the purpose of this presentation, it doesn't reflect any real use case or something. And I also have assigned the role of manager of Ethicon usage data host. Again, this was just for this presentation. So I will show you now how you can use the registry to manage your data. The most important thing is here, when it comes to platforms, you can choose the platform you want to manage, and then you will be shown mostly the same information that is available in the public interface of the registry. So you can see here some of the basic information about it. Then you can see the contact information. This contact information is the part that you can edit on your own. So this is not something that has to be approved by counter. On the other hand, if you decided to change these like more official things, then it will be have to approved by counter. So I will try just to test it now. I will just simply change the host type, and maybe I will delete something from the address, just so that we can see how it works. And you can now see that the information here is still the same, but you can now see that there is a proposed change, and this is the change of the host type and the address. So this way you see that this is something that is still not approved, but you have made this proposal, and the counter staff, Lorraine or someone else, will see in their system that there is this change, and they will be able to review it and then either approve it or reject it, depending on what they think. But if they reject it, they will obviously probably contact you and tell you why they did it and so on. But while it is in this state, you can still edit it, so you can make more changes, or you can just discard the proposal. If you decide not to make the change, you can just discard it, and then it will disappear from the system. The contact information, here there is an interesting thing about it. You can change it freely, but it is done in a slightly roundabout way, so it's not, you will not be directly editing the contact, even though you can using this button. But we made it so that the contacts may be shared between different platforms, let's say, and so on. So this is for the case where, for instance, there are like 20 platforms which are hosted on the same usage data host, and you would like to use the same contact information for all of them. Then it doesn't make sense to fill it in for all of them, and then when it changes, change it again in 20 cases. But you will simply assign one of these contacts, and then when you change that contact, it will change for all of the places where it is used. So this should make the data there more consistent and make it simpler to make, let's say, batch edits of the contacts. I will not edit it here. It's pretty straightforward. Here you can see the list of supported reports, counter 4 and counter 5. I have already made some changes here. These are like, if you have a look at the counter 5, you can see that these are either with this check mark or with the cross, which means that the ones with the cross are like not used at all, and these with the check mark are the ones which are supported. But here in the counter 4 case, you can see some with this up pointing arrow, which means that these have been like proposed to be activated for this sushi service, but are not yet active. You can also, there is some information here, and this is again the case where the counter staff has to review this data that you have edited. So I have already edited here, and I can maybe say that, okay, I don't want this BR2 to be present there, but I want BR3 and BR4 to be activated. And I also want to activate DR for counter 5. And now if I click make changes, we will see that there are these new BR3 and DR5 are like proposed to be activated, and also DR is proposed to be activated. And now Lorraine or someone else from the counter will see that there is this proposal, and if they approve it, it will turn again into these ones will turn to these red ones, and it will be immediately visible in the registry. Until then, in the registry will be the registry will still show the old setup. And now we get to Sushi Services, which is where the platform actually gets somehow connected with the usage data host. So here you can see that we already have this Sushi service defined for counter 5. You can see that there is some contact information here again, because this information may be something that is not, it might not be the same as that is given here for the platform itself. It might be something that is really like technical and really related only to counter 5 sushi. In fact, I would recommend, if you have some more like technical contacts, then specifying them here for the sushi service, so that you can in this way point the users in the right direction. If they have some sushi related questions, they can go directly to the technical support, rather than going here and where you would have to route them to the technical staff. Again, but of course you can use the same contact here as you have used before on the for the whole platform. And here again you see all the information about the sushi service that we have seen here. You can edit it here, and you will see like the for each of these check mark here, you can see also there is also a check mark here, like if the API key is required, if there are some, if the platform attribute is required, and so on. And then this information here, this is some kind of extra information related to this checkbox. So in case you for instance, say that the API key is required and you would like to save it, then it will tell you that there is a problem that you have to provide this additional information. So if you say API key is required, you have to give the user some kind of information about how to obtain the API key, if it is available in the admin interface, or if he should write you an email or whatever. So let's just put something here so that we can save it. And now if I save it, I will again see that there is some proposal for change. I can still edit it or discard it or wait for Lorraine to approve it. If I want to add another sushi service, like for counter 4, I will use this add sushi service button. I can again say select where I am hosting my data. I can use all this data hosts that are available here, and I can only select a different counter release from the one that I already have. So if I already have counter 5 created, I can only select counter 4. Again, I will be like providing the URL here and so on. And once I save it, it will create another sushi service there. But right now I am missing some data here. Okay, so right now here is this counter 4, but this is not yet active. It has to be approved again. So this is how you will be editing your information. It may maybe look a little bit like complicated because different data are edited in different places. But the way we structured it is to make it possible to be really flexible with it. So you can have different counter versions on different data hosts and so on. And if you decide to change the data host, you don't have to change the reports which are supported. You just will change these data here and so on. So this was about the platform management. If I go back, here is the usage data host management. If I'm also a usage data host manager, it looks very similar, but I only have the possibility to change the basic information about the usage data host and contact information. And I also see some information about audits. So there is not that much to change here, and this is mostly data that is not interesting to the librarians, because they will probably be interested in the contacts and so on, which are saved with the platform, not with the usage data host. And here are the notifications, which is always available to you if you are a platform manager. And here you can manage the notifications. There are no notifications right now, but I can add some. Here is some information about in which cases you should use this service and when not to use it. So if it's not intended for, say, regular information like another month has been released and so on, it is more for really the cases where there is some problem with your data and you are working on it. You would like to let the users know, or when you fixed some data and you want users to reharvest. The notification is always Sushi service specific. So you are not only using the platform for which this is released, but also the Sushi service, because the issues are usually only specific to one counter release. So if it's counter 5 specific, it doesn't probably relate to counter 4 data and so on. So if I choose one of the services here, I will put some subject, it doesn't matter. It's just like an email subject. And here I can choose between two different types. If it's like a generic message, I just want people to say that there is a problem, tell people that there is a problem. Or I can use this data edit, which means some data has been updated and you should reharvest. Then who is the source of this information? And in this case, I can only choose content provider. It's also possible that this source could be like the counter organization itself, but I cannot choose it here if I am not like the administrator. And if it's related to data edit, but even in other cases, but mostly in case of data edits, it is very useful to add some kind of information of what time period was affected by this problem. So if I know that since September till the end of the year, some data was not correct, and I want people to reharvest, I can specify the dates here so that people know what data ranges to reharvest. Then I can write some message here, and I can, if it's also about something about data, I can also select which reports were affected. So if I know that it was only the DR report, but not the, let's say, DR reports and others, I can just select the DR report. And once I'm ready, I will submit it, and it will, now I will see what is like the overview of what I have written. Here is the title, and here are the other information. But I have, the way I have done it now, it's hasn't been released to the public yet. What I have to do now, if I want people to see it, I have to click this publish button. But what is important is that once I do it, I cannot change it. I cannot cannot edit it. This is simply to be able to like have the trail of what happened consistent. We don't want to show people some message that they have to do something and then change it like retrospectively after 1 month or something, because we never know when people will read it. And so we really want to preserve the history. So once you release it to the public, you cannot change it. You can release another notification that will be updating the previous one, but you cannot change it unless you contact Lorraine or the counter staff and ask them to change it. They can do it, but you as a platform manager cannot do it. So this is the time when you should be like reviewing the notification, and once you are really like sure that this is what you want to release, then you will do publish. It will again ask you if you really want to publish, and if you do so, then it's published and you cannot change it anymore. You will just see it here as a published notification, but you cannot edit it anymore. So this is like everything that you can do in the counter registry. And before I will switch to Lorraine, and before we will have like questions, I would also like to point out that, as I mentioned, there is this API that is running in the background in the registry, and this can be queried by anybody to get like so that the machines can communicate with each other and get the relevant data. And we have been just now working on integrating the counter registry into our product, which is called Cells, which is for usage statistics. I would just like to show you quickly how it could be used there, so that you have some idea what the benefit would be for the user. So if you are now adding new credentials here, some of the platforms, I only marked 3 here, will have this registry tag here, which means that we already have like connected them with registry. And if I again choose the decorator as an example, if you select this platform, we will download the data using the API from Registry, and we will show you the URL of the sushi server. We will tell you some information about the customer ID, so you will see here whom to contact to get this information. You will see the same information for the API key. You will see that the requester ID is now disabled because it was marked as not being required in the registry, so the user doesn't have to bother with that. And if you want to select which report types you would like to harvest, you will see this blue check mark there for all the platforms, all the reports that are marked as supported in the counter registry. So this makes it really, really much simpler for the user to understand what he needs to do, where to obtain this information, and so on. And also it helps him to pre-fill some data that he would otherwise have to find on his own. So it's really something that we are looking forward to seeing, like, filled with data, because the more data there is in the registry and the better the quality, the easier the life will be for our customers and also your customers. So we are really looking forward to that, and I would be very happy to see the registry as full of data as possible. So this is everything from me. Thank you very much. I'm ready for questions.
So can I just ask, are there any questions? If you either want to type them in the chat, or if you have, if you want to unmute yourself, are there any questions in terms of any of the points that we've presented, any of the demo that you've seen? Hopefully it's all self-explanatory and you'll go away and populate the registry. I think, to reiterate, it's a very useful information resource for everybody. So we would just like to see it populated and as full as possible. So hopefully we've sort of outlined the value and the benefits of doing that for all parties.
Yeah. I was just not wanting to pick on people, but we have got a few people here who have used it in input data. I can see Stuart, for example, is on this call, and I just wondered, Stuart, if you'd like to share with us, your experience of inputting the data.
Yeah, hi Lorraine, thanks very much. It's been very simple, actually. Once we have our admin, as PolyIQ, we represent, I think it's now about 26 for that.
Sorry, Stuart, we can't quite hear you.
Okay, apologies there.
Give
me a minute, I'll just change my microphone over.
Sorry, it was my fault. I put Stuart on the spot there. He wasn't expecting.
Sorry, hi Lorraine. Is that better for you?
Yes, that is. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay,
Stuart.
good. Yeah, so it's been very simple for us to do so. We just log in as an admin, representing about sort of 26 different publishers, and then just to sort of check the reports are there. Our sushi credentials that we have for all the publishers are the same, work on the same basis. So yeah, from our point of view, it's great to update it. We're just encouraging to get the correct contact details that the publishers want to have listed, etc., updated as well. But yeah, from overall, we hope that it's going to be well received by the librarians to make use of it.
Thanks, Stuart. Any other questions or comments? No. Well, one thing I would just say, I know some of you on the call already have your account set up, and you can post your sushi details and your changes. If you haven't already got an account set up, please just email me, and I'll remind you about that in an email later on. We'll set up your account, and then you can go in and make the changes that you need to make. One thing I would just point out is when you get the invitation to activate your account, if you don't activate it, it expires after a while. So I would encourage you, once you get the invitation, please activate it so it doesn't disappear. Super. Joe, anything to add from, or Laura, from the JUSP perspective?
No, I don't think so, Lorraine.
Yeah, we
just to encourage people to register their entry.
Absolutely. And Beda, any last words from you?
The last words. It sounds very ominous. If you want last words from me, because I currently have like 3 COVID positive people in my family right now in the same flat. So asking me for the last word is a little bit. No, but they are all okay. It's quite okay.
Okay.
I just see.
We just got a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to answer those better?
Yeah, I may. So the question is if it's possible to have multiple admin accounts. Definitely, the number of accounts per platform is like unlimited. So no problem there. Otherwise, I cannot see anything here, and nothing comes to my mind what to add. So just again to reiterate that the more data there is in the registry and the more up to date, the more it will be useful to the librarians, and so it will. We really need to bootstrap it as soon as possible. We need to make it. The more data there is, the more useful it will be, and we are really all looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to being inundated with your requests to set up your account. And we will be sharing this recording. So if you want to share it with your colleagues, please do so. And thank you all so much for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Joe and Laura and Beda, for presenting today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.